The Impossible Philosophy. I am going to explain how it came to pass that I cannot be believed. The earth is my convex eye, with which I smile at the sun, my heart. My heart does not smile back. It has a job to do, and cannot be proud of how well it continues to pulse. I was shimmering glints, far off, that let a cosmic understanding pass beyond worlds, and nothing could reach these aspects, yet I did try. There was one face laughing in hysterics and sobbing with lament, completely lacking focus or meaning, yet the galactic gale made sense out of the mush in between. Really there was no stopping the swell, the crash, residing in the blast so long as the ripples last. We were joined, myself, they, and the so forth. The things along these lines of executed men and celebrated mucus infants. It wasn't worth discussing unless someone wanted to travel further than they had any right to believe they could, and there was never far enough. I couldn't pull my shadows along, and they would only come so far out of curiosity. Then they'd retreat for fear of the madness undiminished by beauty. We were within a constellation-like genome, without a home but with residency, swirled out of the orbit of familiarity, and flung afar and aloof. There was our optimism, capable of tossing off the bystanders' souls like refuse. The corpses were jettisoned, but came floating back in bloated restlessness, with bones and all, puncturing moons and Neptunes, as we became puffs of gas by our own incantation of denial. There wasn't your choice anymore. There wasn't that privileged hue that gave us the confidence of love. The metals demanded one be as tough as a psychotic killer and be ready to murder all challengers, especially those who cared to expand the awareness of the luck it takes to be anything more than the meaningless interchangeability that dominated our detail. It was not fear of coming closer that kept us separate. Instead, there was space-time that presented a compelling truth, and there was a fatigue of the will that kept us rooted to the familiar disciplines of reluctance. They who feared death could not fathom how dead we were, so instead they carried on with their mantra, "We are a popcorn audience, capable of laughing and crying, and nothing in between." They kissed our angel wings with poison, and said it was better not to fly. "Be content," they purred, "with not realizing real I sing. With non-acts disguised in cloaks of grandeur. Fold up thy middle, extract those pure elements and give us your battle blood." Intricately they fashioned a knot that bound the throbbing, and I, feeling this, shot through beyond the gravity of their system, beyond to drift, peering back to where it all began, and one day began to end. Nothing was bad anymore. It all was just the nonchalance of coddled babes, babes who didn't grow. Better, it was said, to let the inventions perform for us, and we shall laugh and cry, and nothing in between. A fusion took place that I was the result of. He who was not an artist, he who was not a revolutionary. But the stage was set, and the war had come. This was a limited being, a being unrecognizable as anything but a fool or perhaps an invalid. Yet he saw himself differently. He was the comet of long transits out, back, for the ever that is never forever. These were thought to be tricks of light and words, of colors that no critic had seen, so the critics outlawed a technique that had not even been employed. The audience, and nothing in between, asked in terror, "What is wrong?" Their question being the answer to their question, unable to comprehend the act of revulsion and pain they inflicted upon me by slandering the middle. How they did despise a smile if they were crying, or the tear of another if they were in a jubilant mood, and nothing in between. I asked, why? Because I look at you? That was not wrong. It was only the facts. I couldn't have survived any longer, but fortunately death had seized me early, and I had no use for living. The tomb brought me solace. In the darkness I was the only light. There was an epiphany in that tomb. There was no raging against the dying of the light, because the light was extinguished. Now the task was to ignite a light, using soggy intestinal bile and the dust that covered the globe. The heart sun was the only possible spark, the only excuse for believing such a thing as glow was not just a myth. This I related to the audience, and dearly did I wish for them to cross the line and join in a combustion hot enough to void the frozen cement spirits. However, the chairs were comfortable, and the struggle had been decided in favor of the winners, who proclaimed triumphant victory. So no bond was forged, and the play sagged to no conclusion. Popcorn with the laissez-faire, they mocked. You only perform, was their scoff, and nothing in between. What they didn't apprehend was that they did not apprehend. What I told them was, idiots ruin it every time, and I am an idiot. Even this was too much for the egos, and they lashed back. Maybe you are an idiot, but that makes us geniuses. And that was the flaw that kept the wheel spinning ad nauseum, and nothing in between. I gave them the opening they needed to state, we, goddesses, can fix you. We, goddesses, have never been in error. We, goddesses, must beat you into understanding that only you are the problem. We, goddesses, have not the time to waste on the vermin. These were commonplace antics, genres of the current escalation of fantasy. Conveniently, there was no talking to the deity did the talking. There would have been many inconveniences created had not the mystifying zone of illogic been available to trump all protest. So said the goddesses, wearing matching uniforms, submit, only then will we allow, and nothing in between. The universes were so vast they were invisible. The people were so one-dimensional and small that they became everything. Submit. I was full of protest and was summarily exiled for my own good, so to learn in solitude how to pay proper homage to my betters. When I told them it is easy to win, all one need do is lie in the most self-important ways, they told me that only losers talk that way. I was glad then. Apparently some other losers had been brave enough to speak before I muttered the unintelligible symbols of conscience. How had we all been scattered so far apart, all within the closest proximity? The geometry did not allow for these far-fetched isolations in a literal sense. Nonetheless, the shrinking macrocosm had spawned the widest chasms between us. There was territory here that would not be explored. The veil would hang, never torn, no hole in it, but fading and becoming transparent a billion years too late, and nothing in between.